This is our first video for Chapter 3. This one will be for Chapter 3, Section 1, Divisibility and Mental Math. Make sure to label this in your notebook as 3-1. The terms you'll need to define in this video are divisible, even number, and odd number. When you see their definitions, be sure to pause the video and write the definitions into your notebook. First, let's talk about what divisible means. A whole number is divisible by a second whole number if the first number can be divided by the second number with a remainder of 0. That's just a long way of saying if a bigger number can be divided by a smaller number with no remainder, then it's divisible. Let's look at a couple samples. We can just use mental math for these because these are all facts you should know. So let's see. Is 56 divisible by 7? You can think, okay, I know that 56 is 8 times 7, so yes, 56 is divisible by 7. Alright, so now let's look at it again. Still looking at 56, what about is 56 divisible by 4? Alright, well, again, I know that 56 equals 8 times 7, and 4 times 2 equals 8, so 56 is divisible by 4, because if you were to do 7 times 4 times 2, you would get 56, so it is divisible by 4. Pause the video and just use some mental math to try doing these too. Now let's look at some of the divisibility rules we talked about in class. A whole number is divisible by 2 if the number ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. A whole number is divisible by 3 if the sum of a number's digits is divisible by 3. A whole number is divisible by 5 if the number ends in 0 or 5. It's divisible by 9 if the sum of the number's digits is divisible by 9, and by 10 if the number ends in 0. Now you don't need to write these in your notebook because we wrote them in your notebooks the other day. Here are our other two terms we need to define. An even number is a whole number that ends with a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. An odd number is a whole number that ends with a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. This should be a review. You all have learned about odd and even numbers for years, but just a little recap to make sure you remember. Now let's test out some of our rules. We're going to test if 715 is divisible by 2, 3, 5, or 10. Alright, so we know for 2, the divisibility rule is it has to be an even number. So 715 is not an even number. 5 is an odd number, so the whole number is odd because whether the number is odd or even is decided by the last number. So it does not work for 2. Alright, let's try 3. 3, it has to be the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So 7 plus 1 plus 5 equals 13. 13 is a prime number. It's not divisible by anything except itself. So 3 does not work. Now 5. For it to be divisible by 5, it has to end in a 5 or a 0. It doesn't in a 5, so 5 works. Last one is 10. For it to be divisible by 10, it has to end in a 0. We've already established that it ends in a 5, so 10 does not work. So for this one, the only one that works is 5. But you need to go through and test out every single one that they ask you about. Don't just look at them and go, oh, well, I think that's what it is, and move on. Because a lot of these will have multiple answers. Pause the video and do the tests for 2, 3, 5, and 10 for these three numbers. Now let's look at divisibility by 9. 9 works just like 3. The sum of the digits have to be divisible by 9. So let's look at our word problem. It says, this is a planning word problem. So it says there are 163 people signed up to play softball. Each team will have to have exactly 9 players. Will everyone who gets signed up have a spot on one of the 9-person teams? All right, so we want to know if 163 is divisible by 9. So to test, we have to do 1 plus 6 plus 3. 1 plus 6 plus 3 is 10. All right, we know by looking at it, 10 is not divisible by 9. But to go through the process, so we would do 10 divided by 9 gives us 1 with a remainder of 1. And the definition of being divisible means it cannot have a remainder. So because it has this remainder, it lets us know this is not divisible by 9. Pause the video and try this one in your workbook. You do not have to write the entire word problem, but I do want you to write down the important information and show your work for your test. Check your understanding. Pause the video and complete these in your notebook. Make sure you label it as check your understanding and number your questions. Number 1, vocabulary. How can you tell whether a number is odd or even? 2, number sense. Since 54 is divisible by 6, 54 is also divisible by 2 and 3. Explain why this is true. Match each number with its divisibility numbers. 3, 60, 4, 48, 5, 81. I want you to show your work, show that you've tested them to see which ones work, and write the problems. I don't want to just see 3A, 4B, 5C. Show your work. All right, that's it for this video. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow.